And we're live. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Holy Crap, the VlogCast. VlogCast that occasionally on time comes to you from a skeptical point of view to answer some of the questions of why. This VlogCast started as a combination of spite and the Streisand effect when some people on Facebook that I knew back from high school decided to post stuff that was wrong, which they thought was exactly what they should do with Facebook. And I corrected them, which is what I thought I should do with Facebook, and they didn't like that. Part of this is also to follow through with the old adage that sometimes the journey is more important than the destination. I'm Notice Huge and Tribble all over the place. You can find me on pretty much any social media that you want to. You can try Googling me. It's kind of scary to do that, but it's really hard to miss me. I was born into a Roman Catholic family in Brooklyn, New York, raised on Long Island. I currently reside outside of Buffalo, New York, and I'm an unabashed atheist. First and foremost, my apologies for the delay, everybody. For whatever reason, Google Hangouts for the official account did not want to open properly, but yet on my private account, so we'll figure it out later. Thank you for joining us over. As always, let's start off with the round table. Starting off from the left coast, almost up into Canada. Good morning, good evening, actually, Dallin.
Good evening. Yeah, it's not quite morning yet. We've still got a few hours for that. So good evening, folks. Online, known as Dallin. Born and raised in northern Canada to a Lutheran family. Religion wasn't a very big part of my life growing up. It was there, but not overly taken seriously. That led me to become a very live and let live kind of person until recently, when I finally saw what fundamentalism was doing to my friends, both south of the border and hitting also a little close to home. I decided it was time to take a side. And I chose the side of skepticism, rationality, reason, and atheism.
Moving off to the east, just north of me, Heretic Woman, good morning.
Good morning. So I am from Ontario, Canada. Started out in the United Church of Canada, which is pretty liberal, all things considered. But then I did what I thought was a smart move and moved to a Calvinist sect. Don't recommend it at all. And then I got a clue, and I've been an atheist for 26 years now. And yeah, activist, doing what I can to promote reason and rationality and debunk religion wherever I can find it.
Moving up to the south of me into Pittsburgh. Good morning, Joey. Joey, that's your cue. Your line is, I'm going to free the genie. Anytime.
I don't think he's there.
I'm kind of guessing that too. All right, we will get back to you momentarily. We'll take a swing across the pond over to Chris in England.
Oh, good morning, Eugene. Hi, I'm Chris. I'm based in Preston in the north of England. I was raised sort of nominally Catholic, but it never really took. So consider myself always having been an atheist, but I've been sort of live and let live, as Dallin said, until the last couple of years when I started seeing the damage, not only religion, but general woo-woo and bad logic and reasoning we're having on the world.
Thank you. And moving to the south across the channel, good morning, Joseph.
Good morning. My name is Joseph Schomburg. I was born and raised in Canada as an Anglican, and didn't see much sense in it, and became, around 20 years old, I became increasingly atheist, and today I'm doing everything I can to promote critical thought and ending this obey system we have that's ruining everything.
First off, as I mentioned at the top of the show, yeah, for whatever reason, Google Hangouts is not behaving the way that it's supposed to. I did a couple of tests, and it's not my system to the best of my knowledge. Why, I don't know. But for whatever reason, that's just the way that it is. And thank you very much for your patience. Oh, there you are.
Yeah.
Joey, good morning.
Well, hello.
It is alive.
I had to have a personal heart-to-heart with Google for a moment.
Yes, it seems to be the running rage these days. Go ahead and do your intro, if you would.
Hello, folks. I'm heavily medicated.
Well, heavily, it's very nice to meet you.
My name's Joe. I was born in Chicago, Illinois, to a Irish Catholic family. I was starting to feel more and more like we're testing to make sure all my gray matter is there. I spent 8 years in the military, and I am now living in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania as a graphic designer and an atheist. And if you're wondering why I have no video right now, it's because I have a patch of my hair that has been shaved due to surgery, and I have yet to give myself the full Scott Manley treatment.
Fair enough. For those of you that are unaware who Mr. Scott Manley is, first off, you're missing out. Second, I may be lucky enough to have him on a very long show a little bit later. I'll explain about that shortly. Before we get going with everything, however, Heretic Woman, I need to double check with you really quickly on something. As of this time, is Rafe Badawi in Canada?
No.
Then, as of the recording of the show, it is now 2 years, 10 months, 16 days since he was unjustly incarcerated, and we are still waiting for you to come home. We're waiting for you. So, I would also like to take this quick opportunity after last week's show to say a very quick good morning to the folks over in Kenya, in Kuwait, in South Korea. Yes, this is going to become a thing.
Oh,
in Hungary,
if I may, for just a moment, to the folks over.
And Algeria, the 5 countries that we are singling out. Yes, Joey?
Well, I was going to say, since you mentioned South Korea, just for a moment, since I spent a little time there, annyeonghaseyo.
Appreciate that.
It is.
Yep, and I'll explain about that momentarily. However, for the moment, with apologies to Noah and Heath at the Scathing Atheist, 5 minutes on the clock. Now, I kind of briefly made mention about this yesterday on a show with Dallin and Joey, and I don't know how this is going to necessarily go over, but I'm going to do it anyway. I want to show you this. Some of you recognize this symbol very, very quickly. Some of you need to have it explained. Let me go ahead and do this. The Flying Tigers was an air wing that was started in secret during World War II. It was a group of volunteer airmen who went over to China, and they were nicknamed the Tigers because they were incredibly good at their job of shooting down aircraft. As I recall, typically the Japanese. Now, this was back in the days when, America and China had a little bit of a better relationship, but be that as it may. This particular flight patch is a little bit on the special side for me. And no, it did not come from the Second World War. It's much too recent for that. After all, it's got the plastic hook and loop system. Yes, we're going to call it that because I don't want to get sued by anybody. However, this one came from my brother. I have 2, and I don't talk about my family very much. But I have 2 brothers, my youngest of which, 20 years ago, graduated from the United States Air Force Academy in Colorado. He was given his diploma by then-President Bill Clinton, who stands approximately, according to my brother after he got done, 6'14", or so he felt it to be. Big, tall guy. His graduation isn't the piece that's important. What's important is the intervening 20 years. My youngest brother is now currently unemployed, but that's just a temporary matter. He'll be starting up flying again in just a couple of months, so he's got himself a hiatus for right now. But he spent 20 years in the Air Force, flying an aircraft that, when we were kids, back in the 70s, we got the opportunity of going to an airstrip, an airfield, and a manufacturing plant just 2 towns over from where we used to live. If you want to look it up on Google Maps or whatever, you can find it as Farmingdale, New York, on Long Island. There used to be an ice skating rink over there where the New York Islanders used to practice during the off-season, but that's neither here nor there. But back in the 70s, they had an opportunity for everybody to come out there to the plant, and they had a whole bunch of aircraft on the tarmac where you could just walk up to, get on your dad's shoulders, and look inside the cockpit. One of them was the A-10. A behemoth, a tank buster, a warthog, call it whatever you will. It was a gun with wings and an engine strapped to it. If you
Love that plane.
If you got shot with this thing, there's a really good possibility it would bring you hope if there was anything left of it. But we got the chance to see it at the plant. It was Fairchild, and then it was Fairchild Republic, and Fairchild Republic Grumman, and Fairchild Republic Grumman Northrop. But again, that's 20 years in the making. But we got the opportunity of seeing those things, and now, after 40 years of having seen the inside of them as a kid, my brother was fortunate enough to drive one. He was fortunate enough to fly one, and most importantly, he was fortunate enough to come back in one, time and time again. I told him on the phone, even though I couldn't be there for his retirement, even though my wife could not be there to bring it full circle, I wanted to take the opportunity to just say, you are an inspiration to me. You made it through. You gave me some amazingly funny stories. And I look up to you. I should be so lucky to find out, what do I want to be when I grow up? Thanks, Hummer. And welcome home. This is episode number 63 on the docket, Your Honor. We're going to bring it to order. The Supreme Court here in the United States has finally taken up the arguments for same-sex marriage, and it's about effing time. So we're going to talk a little bit about what marriage equality is, what it means to us, why it matters, and how many countries have apparently crashed and burned and seen the wrath of God from allowing it in the first place. We'll see where this goes to us.
We're still here.
I know. Anyway, those of you that are watching live, first off, of course, thank you very much for your patience. If you'd like to take advantage of the question and answer system, as you see, a lot of us already have, please feel free to go ahead and chime in at any time. If, however, you see stuff just disappear because it was a social thing, I will, of course, go through the thread every once in a while and get rid of stuff that's been there for a little bit that isn't an actual question. It's nothing personal. It's just trying to clean it up a little bit. So we will see you guys. Which means, to start us off with, Renee, thank you. Chris, we see you. Beth, hi. Jeremiah, funny guy.
I saw what you did there.
I see that. Yeah, you're making my jaw hurt. Katie, Beth, Ashley, hey-o. Hi, hon. And
No, hey, I got my Savannah shirt on.
do you now? Look
I
at you.
do.
That's a wonderful thing. So,
And
yes.
oh, can I quickly just say to Jeremiah, if you've been reading the Samson section of the Bible, you might appreciate Dark Matter 2525's YouTube video on the subject.
Oh my God, that was
yeah. I've seen those. That is gold, man. Absolute gold.
very much true. And Heretic Woman has found a picture of one of the A10s, a smaller picture. But
No. This is courtesy of my friend Dave, who's a local fella who I was hanging out with earlier this afternoon in a meetup, and he's watching across town and found that for me.
thank you very much, man. Yeah, the A10 has a long history of. I believe the expression was when you've run out of hoo-ha, or something to that effect. If you hear an A10 coming over a rise and you're pinned down with gunfire and tanks, yeah, it's a pretty good bet that there won't be guns and tanks very shortly thereafter.
Yeah, and if you happen to be that A10's target, it makes me wonder how many tank crews wore diapers when they heard about these things.
Well, Dave told me that they actually kind of built the plane around the cannon.
Yeah, that rotating cannon.
Yeah.
It's not the first time they've done something like that. The if I remember correctly, the Phoenix missile is one of the largest pieces of airborne armament. It was so big that at the time they didn't have a plane to build, or didn't have a plane to actually fire it, and that's where the F-14 Tomcat came from.
Yep.
It was nothing more than a platform to fire that monster.
Oh yeah, it's amazing what can happen when somebody's radar can ping you at 100+ miles out, and then suddenly, what's that funny thing getting bigger and bigger? Oh yeah, and then it hits you.
Literally.
There's a joke in there for some people. And by the way, in case the audio actually makes it to press one of these days, yes, we know. All right, we're working on it.
I'm working on it.
We are working on it. Jeremiah's comment was, been reading the Bible some. Apparently this Samson guy was quite the comedian. Apparently he really brought the house down. Nice.
And
Chris,
let's see if the audio picks this up.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
That was the sound of a face palm, ladies and gentlemen.
And yes, Renee, there's my sidekick. And I will have you know that at least out of the 3 ladies I see there, I think I'm still the tallest. I'm not sure about Beth yet. We'll have to find that out.
Well, apparently you're taller than Lucinda, so we'll just leave it at that.
Jeez.
Yes.
She's a
So what you're saying that if I ever end up at a con with and I know that all you guys are showing up, I should just like permanently look down?
Well,
like, no, I'm not trying to look penitent. I'm watching up for short people.
Oh, I don't know.
Stacy said she was aiming not to step on any of us all weekend, and she was successful.
All right, so let's get things started over here. So I guess ReasonCon went well for you. Then you had a good time.
I had an excellent time. I did. I met all kinds of amazing people.
That's
and,
nice. That's I don't think about this anymore. Shut up. So
many of whom are watching in the chat in the Q&A there. So yeah, Maylee. Maylee is like, okay, so Renee and Ashley and Lucinda on my level. Maylee, I need a friggin' stepladder.
So he and I would probably see eye to eye then.
So were you about nipple level, Maylee?
Not quite.
So let's for reals get things started over here. So marriage is what brings us together today. Don't get the reference. You know what? Just shoo. You don't get the reference to shoo.
Do you? Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
fine.
Yes.
Yes.
Married kisser. That's my favorite.
There you go. So. Okay, so out of the group of us so far. By the way, Unredo Tech has to get up super early, so he's basically bowed out tonight. I almost forgot to mention. So Thanks, Chief. If you are watching at this point, you shouldn't be. Get your ass to bed, or whatever passes for it in this case. I don't care. It could be a hammock. I don't care. On the group, besides myself, and Dallin, I know that you have, who else has been through the marriage thing before? At least once.
I have.
There you go. And nobody else at this point. So 3 of us have, and
Half. Yeah, that's not bad.
that's not bad. Okay.
I have not, for very good reason.
Yes, and with next time out, we'll see about getting your mic a little bit closer for you. I know he's gonna be crap for it.
Can I just ask one thing of Dallin?
Yeah,
Sure.
Dallin, have you got some
Why
sort
is
of
there a
head
dot?
tracking software going?
Sorry?
He's got a dot. There's a dot
He's got a dot, like
floating.
are we gonna have a sing along or something? Because you've got like a follow the bouncing dot thing going there, and it's kind of distracting.
Cute.
I wasn't gonna say anything, but I'm like, there's a dot.
Well, I'm
Someone's
sure
been
the
playing with
viewers will
Oh,
see it
looks like I-
anyway. So
Downloaded a toolbar that I shouldn't.
don't
That
touch the
stupid drawing toolbar.
toolbar.
God damn it.
Yep. There we go.
Uh-uh.
Dot free.
Okay.
It was almost like it was a mole that was trying to find his face.
And you get
Beauty mark.
and you get a beauty mark, and you get a beauty mark. Okay, so
Oh.
for those of you that got that reference for the title of it all, yes, and you get a civil right. Now, the reason why I wanted to do it that way is because the internet meme of and you get bees and you get bees and you get bees, which was originally, of course, and you get a car and you get a car and you got a car from Oprah Winfrey, who had basically more money than God and decided that she was just going to do that for everybody in her studio. And you know what? Good on her that she could do that. I don't begrudge anybody who wants that. But I wanted to use that as a stepping off point because you go to a show, a taping of a show like that, and you go there expecting to have an experience, not to come away with some material possession. Which is nice. I mean, you go there, it's like winning the lottery. Hey, I didn't even know I was playing. Cool. I get something out of it. This is awesome. But now here's the problem. Now we're dealing with people who are intentionally saying, look, treat me like anybody else, please. And there are people who are saying, no, I don't think so. Wait a minute. Doesn't it say somewhere in the document that says, I should be allowed to, be treated as equal as everybody else? Or are we going to start pulling out Animal Farm and decide who's more equal than others? And for those people that don't get that reference, read a book. Read an MFing book. Or just a whole other meme in there. Yeah, it's going to be an evening of memes. Shut up. So, the United States, it's finally coming up to a vote for the states by way of the Supreme Court. So let's backtrack this a little bit. Heretic Woman, I'm going to start off on your side of the border. I'm going to get to both of you first because, as I understood it, and you guys can kind of consult on this and come together for an answer. As I understood it, it basically came down to a matter of, all these people want to be able to marry. What do you think? Well, it kind of says that we should treat everybody equally in our Constitution. I guess we got to treat them all equally under the Constitution. Okay, matter's closed. What's next?
Pretty much.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was. I mean, there was a bit of complaining and whining, but nothing major. And the government basically said, "Too bad, so sad." Deal with it, and presto changeo, we have marriage equality. And that was over a decade ago, and we have not blown up yet.
Yeah, July 20th, 2005.
Yep. No volcanoes, no pestilence. No one's tried to marry a dog yet. So yeah. Although my cat apparently thinks that it's worth discussing. Come on, you get here. But no, I mean it's perfectly fine. Nothing that the fearmongers were whining about has happened. In fact, we had the issue of polygamy come up in Supreme Court recently, and they decided against it at this time. So, slippery slope, people, take a hike.
Okay, Dallin, where do you want to add on to that so far?
Not much either. Although I live in a fairly conservative province, although it might not be overly conservative come Monday. We're actually undergoing an election here right now, and the Conservative Party, which has had dominion over this province since I think it was 1971, could finally be on their way out.
Woo!
Well, now the thing is, like, we've had a conservative federal government here in Canada for quite some time now.
Yeah.
And I don't really equate them with the so-called conservative wing that's down in the States. I would be scared to death of having those guys as my ruling government.
They're nowhere near as scary, but
Yeah.
Harper is getting worse and worse.
Well,
And now he's got Tony Abbott to kibitz with. Those two are getting together, and they're coming up with worse ideas all the time.
yeah, but think of it this way, though. Look at it this way. 1993, the Liberals were elected in under Jean Chrétien, and they had how many years? And towards the end, of course, everything unravels because there was a sponsorship scandal, the huge lack of trust. I mean, they suffered. They got the worst political spanking in the polls in national history. So
They did.
Yeah, so
Well,
I mean, eventually, no matter how you look at it, the reigning political party, they survived.
Which conservative? There was one of the conservative parties that actually did not survive, and they had to refile as a party. That was it was a while ago now. I want to say it might have been under David. But
well, no, there was the PCs we had originally, and then we had the Reform Party under Manning. And this is Preston Manning, not Pastor Manning. Just I want to make that clear.
Yeah. Yes.
There was nothing demonic, although he did have a few interesting things.
Preston Manning was a little bit weird, but he was not into the lattes.
Yeah, although he did love that word, reform. If you remember reform. Yeah.
Oh, yes, I do. Yes, I do.
But those two. But I remember the PCs at that time and the Reform Party merged to become the Conservative Party that we have now. But I mean, you were basically taking two flavors of the same thing to make one flavor, like just one party of all the same flavor.
Yeah. Because I mean, the progressive conservatives I remember as a teenager were nowhere near as Canadian scary as the ones we have now. So that's
But
so
Harper's had all those years now. It's time. Like it's starting to fest. Yeah, it's starting to fester. So it's time to change it's time to change the baking soda into fridge, eh?
Yeah, eh?
All right. So now that we've got that little bit of recent political history.
I have one little tidbit from Dave here. He says on July 20th, 2005, we became the 4th country in the world and the first country outside Europe to legalize same-sex marriage nationwide with the enhancement of the Civil Marriage Act.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was a little off. It's not quite 10 years, but about to be.
Yeah. But
close enough.
Anyways, back to my point. I live in a very conservative-dominated province. Alberta's known for that, largely because, well, oil, a lot of American influence. But yes, in the almost 10 years that we've had same-sex marriage, I've lived in this province. To my knowledge, no portals to hell, no rains of
Nope.
locusts. Well, okay, no, that was actually in Saskatchewan, so that doesn't count. They had a locust problem there a few summers ago. No lie, I drove through it. Okay, so no portals to hell, no agents of the dark one that I could recognize. No tornadoes, no earthquakes, despite whatever fracking's going on up here. No rivers turning to blood. I used to go over a river every morning on the way to work. Didn't really see anything. Yeah, so a lot of the doom and gloom that I'm hearing from a lot of these loudmouths down in the States there, yeah, this stuff's just not happening.
Has anyone tried to marry a goat yet?
I'm pretty sure somebody's gone ahead and tried to convict one, but I believe that was in Africa.
Yes.
Yeah, no,
Saudi Arabia doesn't count.
Yeah.
No, I meant in Alberta.
Yeah,
in
Alberta. I'm thinking up north there in some of that agricultural land, possibly, but there has been nothing in the papers about it. So,
Okay,
at least from official news sources, I cannot speak to it.
They probably didn't try to go the justice of the peace then.
I don't know. I'm just thinking, our friendly eco-terrorist up here, Weebo Ludwig, with that crackpot, anything's possible.
All right. So, you guys, it's almost 10 years. You guys are still there.
Uh-huh.
And you
Yep.
didn't take nuke until 15, 20 years before that. Okay, so you guys are safe.
And no religious person has ever been prosecuted for refusing to marry gay people. I don't think have there been any cake incidents? I can't think of any.
Nope, none that I know of.
No cake
And Starbucks
incidents.
is just as popular as ever.
Yeah, which is
funny-
nowhere near Tim Hortons, but
And funny you should say that, because I'm going to take a swing over the pond at this point. So, Joseph, you with your coffee mug and such. So, how about over there in France? You guys have got marriage. It's traditionally known as the country of such love and amour, Paris, the wonderful destination place. There's got to be all kinds of people being in love and getting married over there.
Well, yeah, we've had PACS. It's been legal since 12 years now, I think, for legal civil marriages anyways. But here, marriage is there's a lot of people doing civil marriages anyway, and everybody's religion is basically their own business. So if they're having a religious ceremony, it has nothing to do with the legal status. But it's been legal, over a decade now. But there's something about, just a point I'd like to make about the Christian quote-unquote monopoly on marriage.
Oh, by all means.
The thing that really bugs me about this is that they couldn't care less about marriage. They didn't even start to get interested in marriage until like the 15th century. It wasn't even acknowledged in the Christian faith until the 12th century. I think it was the Council of Verona, where it was acknowledged. It was in 1184 with the Council of Verona, where they acknowledged marriage as a sacrament for the first time.
Okay. And
until then, they were basically preaching celibacy.
Oh yeah, because that works out just so well. I mean, they based an entire religion around that whole celibacy thing going wrong.
I think there's even
every pulpit came in
there's
over
even
the time.
Jesus praising somebody for castrating themselves. And the Apostle Paul, he saw marriage as an impurity, as a sin. So it wasn't until the Council of Trent that Christianity became directly involved in marriage. It was like 1563. It was from then that the presence of a priest was obligatory. And until then, anybody could get married anywhere with the consent of the parents, and that was it. That was the marriage.
And we do have a question apparently on the board for you from Michael, which, by the way, thank you. Ask Joseph what the law is in France and when it changed.
What the law is? Well, before, I'd have to look that up the exact year. I think it was before 2000.
Dave gave me that France got same-sex marriage May 18th, 2013. That's what Dave fed me, but I didn't look it up yet myself.
No way. No, it was much earlier than that.
It may be that civil partnerships or something equivalent predate that. Because in the UK, civil partnerships came in 2004, but same-sex marriage was only 2014.
Yep.
So I wondered if the situation has been similar elsewhere.
Just let me look that up.
Sure, no problem. And while they're all looking stuff up around, Joey, let me hit you with a piece. You like we've known, you've gone through college for graphic art and that kind of thing. You've dealt with people of, okay, I'm gonna be playing the stereotype, and forgive me, the only reason I'm playing the stereotype is only because
I think here it's fine.
Yes, stereotypes have a habit of fulfilling on occasion. You've dealt with people of all kinds of stripes, of all kinds of sexuality, because, well, college.
And a liberal arts, and I use the term liberal very loosely here, but
sure.
A liberal arts college.
Yeah. So, as far as to all kinds of couplings of various different descriptions, and I feel dirty even having said that term. Your college in Pennsylvania and Pittsburgh in particular haven't suddenly fallen under lava flows and all kinds of ring of fire type earthquakes and such yet, right?
Unfortunately, no.
Unfortunately, no, he says that. You know what? That's close enough. I'll go with that.
Hey, nobody likes their own school after they've been there too long.
It's close enough. All right, Joseph. Oh, how much more information did you get at this point?
Yeah, okay. Dave was right about the marriage part, because preceding that, there was something called Pax, which started around 1998, and it was basically a civil union, but married couples, they didn't have the same tax status, and they didn't have the same. They weren't able to adopt children. And that was brought into law in 2013. Well, 2012, and it was passed in 2013.
Okay. And by the way, I'm going to switch them over here since it's here. Michael has also made reference that your mustache is way too French.
It's actually not, but anyways. Nobody has one.
Michael, in all seriousness, if you really want to see what a good couple of mustaches look like, check back over on the correct account, the Holy Crap, the VlogCast actual YouTube channel, and look at episode 62 when we had Nick Morganmore on. Oh, wow. It is just a maximum density of great mustaches.
He's tending that thing like a farmer's field, too.
I missed it all with my clean-shaven face.
That's all right.
Yeah, I wasn't here either, but
we should have an episode with fake mustaches for everyone.
Yeah, but I think
Okay, Dallin just got muted, so Joey, hurry up.
I was going to say, I'm pretty sure that my convention greatly differed from yours, Heretic.
yeah.
Just a little bit,
What
yeah.
was your
Mine may have been fun as well.
Mine was VA Hospital Con.
Oh, that's yeah. Oh, yeah, the head thing. Yeah.
This.
That's Definitely not as enjoyable, I'm
My
thinking.
hat is really lopsided right now.
Yeah, let's
No,
not.
I'm not turning into a Martian.
Great.
Interestingly, Michael actually sent me an article claiming that early Christian church performed gay marriages in the as early as 100 AD.
I
No.
think I may have found something related to that on Wikipedia. In that I've not checked the sources and whatever yet because I've only been looking during the show. But at first glance, it appears that same-sex unions were recognised in the ancient world from across sort of Europe, Near East, some parts of China, etc. Until 342 AD, well, at least in Europe. When it was Emperor Constance brought in the Christianity as the religion of the Roman Empire and put a stop to all that equality stuff. So it's taken us about 1650 years to get back
Figure it
to
out.
where we were before.
Yep. Yeah,
So-
I can put a link in the chat here if anybody wants to see the article.
Yeah, we can see what we can do about that. All right, so generally speaking, the locations where same-sex marriage or marriage equality, or as some of us like to call it, marriage, has happened, so far, nothing untoward has happened. The wrath of
There's
nobody
a nice
has really
map for
happened.
you.
I'm sorry?
There's a nice map for you.
Okay, explain for the people who are looking at it and for the audio piece of this album, whenever we get around to it finally, what the image is and how it relates.
We've got a standard flattened map of the globe showing areas in a nice purple colour where same-sex marriage or marriage equality is a thing, and nice grey areas where it isn't.
Because it had to be purple and gray, didn't it?
But,
It did.
Australia doesn't have same-sex marriage.
They may have some civil union things or whatever. I can check on that.
I'd have to check, but I know our friend Donna, she's engaged over there, and she and her fiance are actually planning a wedding in the UK because they can't get married in Australia.
I'm really curious about that sort of little purple dot right there by, I want to say it's over by Egypt there.
Would that be Israel?
Possibly, yeah. I didn't know they had it there. Good
That
on
could
them,
very
but
easily
wow.
be, yeah. Or the West Bank, because
Yeah.
of the size of it.
Oh, I see the
that
one.
is-
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
But-
not it.
But
Israel.
basically, for we've got virtually all of Europe, Canada, Mexico, probably about half of South America, South Africa, Japan, and Australasia, according to this map, having marriage equality. It's only where it's covering a whole country, so the individual US states where it's a thing aren't picked out yet. And I'm just going to check the situation with Australia.
Yeah, as far as that is concerned, the fact that it's not showing the individual states here in the United States doesn't surprise me. I mean, let's face it, if you were to get that really nitpicky, you'd have to go through all of the individual states for, let's say, India, or all of the individual states for Australia, or anywhere else where it's broken down that way, and that just gets to be just screwed all to hell. Just at the federal level, it makes perfect sense that way.
Yeah, it was a similar situation for Mexico where same-sex partnerships can be performed in about half of the states, I believe, or provinces, whatever they have, but not in the other half. But if you get married in one part of Mexico, it's recognised everywhere. So you might have to travel to perform the thing, but it will then be recognised everywhere.
For the sake of,
Go ahead.
well, I was going to say, for the sake of clarity, the little dot is in fact Israel. However, same-sex is not permitted on their territory, but they recognize marriage that is performed outside of their territory, though really just for statistical reasons.
Gotcha.
And by the way, if you happen to be watching, Nick, hi, Nick. I know it's probably a gorgeous, gorgeous, wonderful day over there in Brisbane. Screw you, we still got a little bit of snow on the ski slopes over here. If you want to chime in at any time, by the way, just shoot me a Twitter message and I'll get you over in here. Heretic Woman, yeah, over you again.
Yeah, Dave sent me more information about Australia, actually. He says that same-sex unions are treated as de facto unions under Australian federal law, though each Australian state and territory is entitled to create their own laws, which, with respect to same-sex relationships, registers and same-sex partnership schemes. Same-sex couples are prevented from marrying due to a ban on same-sex marriage contained within the Federal Marriage Act from 1961, and it was amended in 2004 by the Howard government.
Okay.
So he said.
All right. So now that we've got a pretty good handle
and it
as...
looks like only the Capital Territory actually does the civil unions
Right.
itself, as of the latest update on this Wikipedia article.
Okay, so like I was saying, now that we've got a pretty good handle as to, generally speaking, who allows it and who performs it and is a facilitator, I guess, of love. These areas where same-sex marriage is disallowed, shall we say, and I want to make this as quick as possible because we got oh man, as usual, we got a lot of stuff that goes on with this. We know full well that there are certain areas where same-sex coupling is, the nice way of putting it would be, frowned upon. At the business end of a machete. Let's start off with Africa, for instance. Lots and lots and lots of areas in Africa. There is that bastardized version of Christianity where they will hack up an 8-year-old girl because she's a witch. So you can well imagine same-sex marriage, coupling, never mind marriage, is bad. I guess it's probably understating it just a little bit, but you get the general idea. Actually, Dallin, I'm swinging over your way because you can see Putin's house from out your neck of the woods.
Yeah, okay. My last name's not Palin. Thank you very much.
It's close enough. You guys are close enough to it all. All right, so you know full well Russia's history with same-sex partnerships has been egregious at best.
Mm-hmm. I don't see it improving anytime soon. I think they've got enough of their own problems without this one popping up.
Yeah, but it looks like the situation there is probably deteriorating and going in the opposite direction. They've put in some sort of fairly horrible laws recently. I'm just trying to look up the...
Yeah, well, really, I mean, you don't have to get very much further than, even though it's not directly the same, with the, what was it called, Pussy Riot?
Yes, Pussy
I mean,
Riot.
Heretic Woman, if memory serves, you had talked about these guys specifically at one point or other, no?
Yeah, they took 3 of them. So Pussy Riot is a punk band, but they aren't a I don't know how to word it. They have sort of a revolving membership. because of their topics, which are anti-Putin and pro-gay. They don disguises a lot of the time. So no one is completely sure all the time who's a member and who isn't. They can perform with 6, 8, 10 members. It depends on what's going on. But at one point, they performed a song or two, I can't remember, inside a church. And I think they were definitely dissing Putin, and I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure they were talking about rights for gay folks and anti-gay propaganda laws, whatever. So 3 of them were apprehended and thrown in jail for several months. So their identities did become known because they were, caught and thrown in jail. There was an international outcry about their incarceration. Eventually, right before the Sochi Olympics, Putin let them out, and 2 out of the 3 began touring Western countries, talking about what had happened and what their platform was and why they did what they did, and Putin's an ass and all of that. So that's kind of the Pussy Riot story in a nutshell. And interestingly, in season 3 of House of Cards, and if you haven't heard it, seen it, close your ears for a minute. They do touch on kind of a plot line that includes a version of Pussy Riot, and Pussy Riot actually plays the outro credits on that episode, which is really cool.
That's actually really cool. And by the way, since we are at what should otherwise be the halfway point, we're a little bit short of that, I need to make a mention about something that's kind of shocking to me and making me smile really, really, really hard. I don't know if anybody else has noticed. We have consistently been crossing over into the double digits for live viewership right now, so here you go, us. It's about freaking time, man. Yeah. Where the hell have you people been all my time? Really? I mean, come on. You just slacking off, man.
Chris and I have been at conferences telling people that we come on Holy Crap.
Well, they were at they had to sleep in because they had church in the morning. Didn't you know?
Yeah.
That makes perfect sense. Which, by the way,
I think we should market the show more to like Seventh-day Adventists and the Jewish population, as they do their things on Saturdays.
Yep. All right. And by the way, those of you that are watching, if you are not already friended with me somehow or other on Google+, please send me a message one way or another and let me know what your name is on Google+. I will make sure that you get an invite, get listed on my personal page under Shujin Tribble, and the one for the show itself, Holy Crap, the VlogCast. I know, this was just a weird one that just got screwed up, and I'm sorry, it's technical stuff, it happens. And by the way, those of you that are coming over from Imaginary Friend Show, Dodecomb Podcast, yeah, Nick's a freaking liar, okay? I look nothing like that actor, and those of you that heard the episode know full well what I'm talking about. So, yes, I've hit the rewind.
Don't feel too bad.
Yeah, it's easy for you to say. He didn't compare you to somebody on a TV show.
No, instead I had a guy from the TSA equate me to one of the guys from Sons of Anarchy. So I'm getting on a plane, and I'm apparently resembling a biker gang member. I was waiting to go into the special room after that.
You don't look biker.
No, of course I probably hadn't shaved in like 4 days, so maybe I could have looked like what's his name? The Hellboy guy. What's his name?
Oh.
Ron Perlman.
Yeah.
Ron Perlman, yes.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
That.
I don't know why I forgot his name because
Yeah, we all kind of blanked on that one.
Fallout.
I know. And I'm sorry, but I was a fan of his long before any of that crap because I grew up watching Beauty and the Beast.
Yeah, but okay, like my point, just
I remember that show.
Yes.
Yeah, have you seen the reboot? Oh man.
No, I took one look at a preview and was like, ew.
Yeah, I noped all of that.
Yeah.
And by the way, Dallin, if next time one of these guys gives you a hard time, all you got to do is just you're watching the camera, of course. Those of you that are not watching camera and listening to the audio later, this is not going to be nearly as funny. But you could have just done this. I am Groot.
Actually, the scary thing is some members of the TSA make me look small.
Mm-hmm.
And some of them, I think they're. No, I don't know if they're armed or not, but
probably are.
I saw some that were definitely armed.
Yeah, so I don't want to take any chances. You know, like, yeah, I'm a big guy. Yes, I tend to tower over some people, but no, I think if I did the whole "I am Groot," he would have looked up at me and went, "I am cop. You are busted."
Yeah.
I'm going to have to take a sin off right there for Groot being awesome. Ding!
Don't understand that. You really need to get out. Actually, stay in more often, or just run your data plan. All right. So, a question that came up over on Q&A, and I want to get to a couple of these because there are some that are pretty good questions to deal with. It's going to be really hard to not go over time, but we're going to do our damnedest over here. I got two of them that are kind of linked together. Where is it? Damn it. Where the hell was it?
Jeremiah's question.
That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
Over here on the list.
Jeremiah was asking about the idea of simply removing legal and government benefits from marriage altogether for the sake of equality.
Right.
Personally, I don't think so, but I'd like to hear the host's opinions. And if I may jump in on that one, as Renee's raised, that this would probably be a bad idea. Human beings do form like long-term relationships, whether it's between like male and female or to people of the same gender or whatever. And there's children involved, and there are times when like decisions about sort of medical care and property and welfare of children and custody and all that need to be made. And so it's very useful to have a system of recognizing those relationships. There are some things like with maybe like tax benefits or whatever that may need reviewing in terms of like modern employment patterns and earning balances and whatever. But I think those parts of the relationship should still be recognised. I'm just trying to remember which podcaster it was, but someone gave an example like that really struck a chord a while ago. It was if you imagine like a gay couple where one of the partners is from a fundamentalist religious background and has been kicked out of home at age 16 for coming out, and then forms like a 10-year relationship with someone else with their partner. If they then get into a car crash or have a sudden illness and whatever, that partnership, if it's not recognised, means that the fundamentalist parents who kick them out on the streets are the ones that the doctors have to go to for the decision, any decisions on care or whatever. And then there's, if he dies, there's issues about property and inheritance and whatever. And that's clearly not the right way of doing it.
Yeah, just to make sure that we've got that all out there on the official. Jeremiah's comment was, the idea that we should simply remove legal and government benefits from marriage altogether for the sake of equality, or to discuss the term. Personally, I don't think so, but I would like to hear the host's opinion. Renee's answer to that one was, removing legal benefits from marriage would be bad. Inheritance and making medical decisions for a spouse would be farked. Good choice of words, by the way. Well done. Bad outcome if that happened, and that's very, very true. I mean, we have heard, and I'm going to say heard. I'm fairly certain it was documented and in the news at one point. Although I'd be I'd be arsed if I could remember it. It might have been Florida, where a same-sex couple had a situation where one was in the hospital and the other had all the paperwork that said they are legally responsible, they have power of attorney, they've got all of the medical necessity, here's the paperwork, making it all legal, and they just brushed them aside and said, no, we don't recognize that, whatever the hell that was. Something tells me that, shoot, Dallin, really quickly, was that a story that we had talked about on a Friday night show at one point or other? I'm feeling like it was.
We might have touched on something like that back before we sort of imposed those rules of ours about not touching subjects like that. But yeah, this does ring very familiar.
I believe there's been more than one case of that kind of thing.
You're probably right, Chris.
Or visitation rights being refused for people in hospital to their partners and all kinds of horrible shit.
And this is something that I find just absolutely galling about. Now, it took me a while. I finally did get an education on sort of how the U.S. does government, thanks to one of our former panelists here, Witchy, about how you have basically every state is unto itself its own nation, really, when it comes to laws and things like that.
Well, that was kind of the way it was intended, yeah.
No, and I get that. And I mean, maybe at the time that was good. But when it comes to institutions like marriage and like other things that really need to benefit all the people, I've always said that has to be something that comes from the Fed. So if what they're saying with the Supreme Court deliberating on it, I do hope that they say that yes, now marriage equality is law across the land, so that the next time some Florida pinhead decides to come up and say, oh, we don't recognize it, and say, well, guess what? Your ass is about to get sued, and sued hard. This is something I've always had a problem with, where your marriage is recognized and is okay in one state, but you go one state over to visit a relative or to go see a tourist attraction, and suddenly you're not considered married? Like, if something like that existed up here in Canada, I think my mind would just be blown.
Yeah. Because, I mean, what if you go on vacation and you have an accident, and next thing you know, it's like, oh, I'm sorry, you're not married, you can't be with that person.
Well, yeah, this is what I'm getting at. Like, it just...
Yep.
And as far as the whole thing about removing legal and government benefits, no. What really should be happening is that benefits should be supplied to all married couples, regardless of what the partnership is made up of, or who, for that matter.
Yeah. At this point, we've got questions, of course, that are showing up that I'm really, really liking, and commentary that's really helpful on this one. I want to make sure that I try to stay in the circle as much as possible, which is really hard on me this time around, because I want everybody to understand that even though I try really hard to make sure that I hit everybody as equally as I can, there are certain points where I have a bias towards the people that I understand better. So please forgive me. I'm trying to make sure that I don't just stick here with the North American contingent. I'm sorry. I'm trying really hard on this. Joseph, I want to ping over your way partly for that reason, but partly also because, as I've said on many an occasion, France for me especially is much more an unknown. So a lot of the things that you've talked about, I did not know, I did not understand culturally, especially. Like we were talking about, we've had areas here in the U.S. where you can go from one area to another, cross a state boundary, and suddenly you're no longer recognized in the eyes of the law. For you guys have got marriage equality around the board. Is there anything that you can think of in fairly recent terms where somebody was discriminated against because of whether it was the same sex or interracial, there we go, or interfaith, or some such stupidity along those lines?
Not to my memory, no. Interracial, absolutely not. No, because France has its past with its past. It has a colonial past. So after the Algerian conflict, they're very sensitive about things like that, and because they're trying to repair damages that they did a lot of damage in Australia. There's something there called the Australia. I'm sorry, what did I say? Yeah, with Algeria, they had a group of Algerians. They called them the Pieds Noirs, which basically means black feet in English, and they were France sympathizers, and they were basically abandoned after the Algerian conflict, and they came en masse to France, and this was during the 1960s. So they had a lot of racial issues then, and equality issues, and all that. And they've been working ever since then to make things equal for everybody.
That works out good. Chris, let me bring it over for you for pretty much the same kind of thing. I would assume that with the United Kingdom, that things are different from one area to another. I know full well there's got to be a general code. Oh crap! See, now here's the problem, because I'm suddenly realizing that there are the different areas of the United Kingdom which are not always chummy with each other. Not to mention the whole Catholic Protestant thing, which, okay, yes, is a Cold War thing at this point, meaning it's not people aren't exactly blowing stuff up left, right, and center anymore. But for you guys, has there been anything that you can think of in moderately recent memory?
Sorry, regarding what? I zoned out for a second there, sorry.
As far as to folks being treated less than equally for their own relationships, whether interrelation. Wow.
Interracial things.
Or interfaith, or whatever.
Less tang, more coffee, Shujin.
Right. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Generally, yeah.
Do you see this? This is already gone. Don't even start with.
Do you see this? I'm still working on it.
Hey, where's your Starbucks mug?
Yeah.
It's in the dishwasher, sadly.
There you go.
Yeah,
okay.
no,
I'm sorry, Chris. Go. Please.
Generally, as far as I'm concerned, for sort of like England and Wales, within fairly recent history, I don't think there's been anything problems regarding sort of interracial, or generally, say within the Christian faith, say interdenominational marriage. I'm not sure what the situation is in Northern Ireland, because that's been a whole different kettle of fish. But as far as I'm aware, generally elsewhere there's no problems. I know that back in sort of the 60s, my mother got told by her father that she couldn't date someone because they were of because of the black-skinned on there, and she really sort of didn't get why at that point, but sort of later understood. But more recently than that, I don't think there's been any major problems.
Which is always nice to hear for a change, considering how things have been over the last.
I have some information that folks have been sending me to.
I would say she was also apparently quite disappointed with the situation in the US at around that point. because she wasn't able, for that reason, to date one of the drifters.
Right. Well, the other piece that was over here, and this is a piece that I want to kind of fill in the gaps of what I was really intending to get to, and Renee hit it wonderfully. At the end of the day, marriage is about a contract or property rights and legal rights. We still need legal protections, especially if kids are involved. Now, this is something that gets kind of bandied about, and I don't know that it's wrong. However, marriage. No, I'm not going to do it again. The legal status, because status sounds a little bit too much like stasis, and we're not going into sci-fi. Legal status of marriage is a contract, an obligation in written form between two people, effectively.
I want to come back to that in a minute, Shijin. But carry on.
Okay. Effectively incorporating the two involved into a single unit. Now, I'm having a little bit of a hard time getting through it in my own head, and it's partly because I've been a little bit sleep deprived. There's other stuff that's been going on for me that I've lost a little bit of sleep, so head's a little bit on the wrong side. No offense, Joe. Just kind of the thing. And yes, I'm having fun at his expense, Shush. And the rationale that I've had for it in my own brain is that once married, the couple, traditionally, yes, man and wife, and by the way, I've got a card over here that I have to talk about in a moment on that one, is able to utilize a new set of tax laws, a new tax bracket that takes both of them incorporated into one taxable unit. It could be that they stay separate as far as taxes are concerned, but they have the option of being a single taxable unit. And yes, that boils it down into very, very austere terminology and very unhappy, very dry, not very lovey-dovey, and I know, I get that. But that's one of the things that happens. And that's something that's rather unique. You don't get that in any other situation. You could cohabitate, you can be at college, you can have a roommate, but you have to have a formalized thing in order to get this particular legal change of obligation to the tax code. Which is kind of weird, you think about it. And yes, it's only one piece of it all. I know. Like I say on many occasions, there's freaking nuance all over the place. Shut up, I know. Chris, since you said you wanted to get back to something, let me... Holy mother of wall of text. Don't do that to me.
Yes.
Oh, where are we? Second Life?
Okay, for those of you that don't understand... For those of you that don't understand, with the Google Hangout system, we're able to text chat back and forth to each other. And normally, since I'm operating the camera for the video feed, I don't flip over to the text chat section because I'm keeping track of the Q&A and our video. And when text comes across, it comes up as a bubble for each of us, and I just suddenly got a large bubble of text that covered half of my screen.
Yeah. No, while you were looking, while I was checking something out, I was looking at the UK marriage contracts, and there was the small text I posted was a section entitled "Recognition of Mixed Marriages," which is about the fact that the law in some countries does not allow between marriage between peoples of different races or religions.
Hold it. Time out. Wait a second. I'm sorry. Do I have a? This is close enough. I got it. I'm throwing a tiger card on the play on that one. Let me get this straight. You actually copied and pasted a section of actual legal text code into the text so that it would show up for all of us.
Yeah, it was just because the next part of the wording was, which I thought absolutely wonderful for a legal document. So it was commenting on, for example, at the time this law was written, which was some time ago, that like South Africa intermarriage between people of different races was not acceptable. And it was saying these restrictions are, however, considered to be repugnant to English ideas of law and justice. So I thought that touched quite nicely on what we were discussing before. What I was saying earlier I wanted to come back to was where you were talking about two people, and I've just checked as far as English law is required. Marriages are required to be monogamous, which human beings are not. And there's sort of various biological evidence for that, and as well as cultural and statistics and the rest of it. So that was restriction there, which affects people who are want to be polygamous or whatever. And also people that it also has implications possibly for anyone who wants to have sort of an open relationship, but still be married to someone.
I have to make reference to this one because, like I said, apparently it's going to be a meme night for me at this point. As far as to the monogamy question, yeah, humans tend not to be, and I only have to reference the epic rap battles of history between Genghis Khan and the Easter Bunny. So, if you haven't seen that, you really should.
We are subject to evolution. And as such, historically speaking, our ancestors ate and everything in sight because those were the two ways to ensure that your genetic heritage was passed on.
According to current statistics, this is not historically speaking.
I'm just saying.
Something like 80% of relationships which are claimed to be monogamous are not. And the number of people sleeping with another partner, other than the one they're married to, is about equal, I think, between men and women.
I think so too.
It's so in future that would maybe a point that may need to be addressed in marriage legislation as sort of society opens up and becomes more rational.
All of these things are full of contradictions and such. I mean, sanctity of marriage, because 50% divorce rate is really sanctimonious.
Yeah.
Thank you. You just opened the door for me.
Yeah. No, I think what has to happen is, like what Chris said. Right now, we've got the same-sex marriage, and I'll call it an issue because it's something that hasn't been resolved globally yet. And I think in order for that to happen, the first thing we got to do is we've got to get religion out of marriage. Yes. It has to be recognized for what it is. It is a legal contract between two consenting adults to, well, like Eugene said, to become that one entity, that one particular entity that pays a certain kind of tax, that recognizes a certain kind of benefits, that is responsible but gets benefits for any offspring it produces through biological or adoptive means. So once we get that figured out, and once we figured out that it doesn't matter which two individuals it is, then we could look at, a polygamous type of contract.
Or an open contract.
But the first thing we got to get smooth about. we got to get religion out of marriage.
Well,
It has to stop being the monopoly.
2 things.
Yeah, Joey.
1, we need to get religion out of government, period.
That
Because
too.
that's a whole slew of things. But
Yeah, how do you lead an elephant, though?
practically every government that we know of in the world has absolutely no problem incorporating large groups of people at a time into one legal entity, and yet just 2 people, and it's a problem. Yes, I just brought business law into a discussion about same-sex marriage. Deal with it.
The thing that gets me is when I get people going, oh, traditional marriage and historically marriage was much more, sanctified. I'm like, bull. The further back you go, the more it becomes a contract, because what it was trying to do was secure who gets the land, who gets the whatever monies, and
the cow.
Children,
Yeah.
who gets
And the
the cow,
and the goats and the sheep.
and whose children are considered legitimate, and how do you consider children legitimate? Which, that part we absolutely don't need anymore, because all we can do is go get a DNA test if it's, or if you're adopting a child, then it's yours, kind of thing. You don't have to worry about all that hereditary crap. But from the business standpoint, you've got merging of households now, so if there's a problem, having that contract in place will tell you, what do we do if there's a problem? And you can have a loving relationship outside that contract, if that works for you, but the contract is there to protect the parties involved in the long-term relationship, especially where there is a good deal of property and children involved. But the actual marriage part doesn't have a dang thing to do with any sort of sacred ocean or codifying business.
Yeah, the marriage ceremony, be it religious or secular, depending on what your band is, isn't really so much about the couple. It's more a statement they're making to their respective family and friends that, this is the big announcement. And we're going to throw a whole bunch of pomp and circumstance behind it so that you won't forget the fact that these 2 people are now together.
Well, you and I, we're gonna have a minor disagreement on this, and I'll explain in a couple of moments why. Don't worry, it's actually going to be a good disagreement. But something that I wrote down on this little cardie over here: those that want to go ahead and talk about the sanctity of marriage being a man and a woman, traditionally always been and always will be. Guess what I've got on this little piece of paper? That's fine for people.
Their Bibles.
Wait for it; it gets even better. I'm sorry, Dallin. I'm kind of ripping off your. Sorry.
No, please. I want to see the setup and the spike here. Go for it.
Okay, and I'm sending this. I'm dedicating this to Yogg using the Sharpie O Doom I actually wrote down for marriage equality. According to this, God says it's supposed to be 1 man and 1 woman. Okay, please explain to me why Zeus and Hera are allowed to be married, considering that they were Joey. What were they?
Siblings.
They were brother and sister. So Zeus and Hera predate a lot of these things, and they were brother and sister. So, yes, Chris?
That's that whole incest thing. There's not the same genetic risks with deities. They operate on a different system.
Keeping it in the family.
Their genes were cleaner back then.
If you want to have lots of little gods running around, you just need to cut off a testicle and throw it into the sea or something like that.
The options were limited, okay?
Oh, the hell they were. He went ahead and he impregnated a woman by raping her as a swan. Who are you kidding?
Wasn't one of them a bull at one point too?
Yeah.
Let's not get into to theological scoodly pooping because yeah, thank you, John Green.
Well done.
Because let's face it, I think Loki takes the cake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we're just gonna. What was his name? Fnifner?
Sleipnir.
Dallin, help.
Yeah, Sleipnir.
Sure. Yeah, we'll go with that. I don't care. You know what? I don't care.
Well, Sleipnir was the father of Loki, was it?
No.
That was the horse that Odin rode, I think.
We're not gonna discuss this. We're
Yeah,
not.
Rode as in put a saddle on and put on his back and rode him.
We're not gonna get into who rode who. We're just gonna go.
Oh god, we're talking about.
All right. I'll
riding
admit,
him.
I dove face first to that one. I figured, you know what? It's kind of like getting jumped into a gang. Just like dive in, get it over with, and then you're fine. Except with this crowd, because I'm never gonna live this shit down.
Something tells me that when we get a little bit more sleep deprived, these shows get to be a hell lot more entertaining.
Oh, with friends like these folks who need sobriety.
Oh, the truth. All right. So, all right. Oh God, biblical marriage being between a man and a woman. All right, let's go ahead and go along with. Well, you know what? Jeremiah had brought him up. Samson. He was a bastard because. You know what? Let's not go into it.
You know what? That's a label for another show.
I thought biblical marriage was between like 600 wives and 1,000 concubines and Solomon.
No. It was 300 wives and 600 concubines.
Oh, sorry.
And it was close to 1,000 altogether when.
Undergood.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how many goats might have been involved.
Well, hey, what about Lot and his daughters?
Well,
Yeah.
Well,
not
I don't
technically
think
a
they
marriage,
actually got married.
Yeah,
No.
you're right. Technically, there was no marriage, but there were kids involved.
Well,
We-
but he
we are officially
would have
getting into-
owned them.
We are officially getting into beaten horse territory here, which now is the third reference to horses we've had in the show
Who they
tonight.
shove out, yeah.
For those of you
We
who
haven't
missed,
even got to his detail yet.
for those of you who missed the first reference, me and Joseph were before he popped off for apparently. We were discussing the better qualities of cheval,
which loosely translates to.
horse meat.
That's horse.
It's actually a
Well,
commonly accepted dish in France.
Mm.
And we have a French national in my school who decided to do a little culture share with me. So,
There you go.
I had
BP.
an interesting culinary experience last weekend as well. One of the speakers at the QED convention I went to was a Dutch guy who's running sort of a campaign to promote eating insects. So I was chowing down on grasshoppers on Saturday morning.
Been there, done that.
Yeah, very tasty. But sort of like pistachios, but smaller.
I had macaroni with Bubby C. We like our macaroni and cheese.
Mm.
See, I told you we would start talking about scoodly pooping and eating because that's what this all goes back to.
Speaking of which,
By the way, I was going to ask, does Solomon have access to like ancient Viagra or something? Because I don't know how he manages 1,000 women.
It's all there.
at this point, I don't believe so because
Google
he's.
Calendar.
What's the word I'm looking for? Oh, right, dead.
I said at the time. At the time.
Oh, sorry, Joseph. Joey. I'm sorry about that. No, actually, no, not in the least. But Ashley is putting up a very good point in her particular case, saying, "quote Bobby cannot make any legal or medical decisions for me. All decisions ultimately go to my mother, someone who I rarely speak to and would follow her beliefs, not mine." Now that's a piece of this whole thing that we should really end up closing out on, because this is traditionally the last part of it all, is where we really start to get onto the downer
I
and the
have
really
one
seriously
question.
part about it all. Oh,
And
by all means.
Before you get into that shoot,
Sorry, I was going to say Beth had a similar comment about her former girlfriend as well. That her mother description was ill, and they wouldn't let her in until she showed paperwork showing that she actually had the power authority for her medical decisions.
All right. Well, Dallin, before you get on, let me explain why I didn't use that one in particular. I had to deal with at one point or other in my life, believe it or not, I was a bank teller. Yes, believe it or not, I can actually count past 100. I had to deal with, on occasion, power of attorney over bank accounts because it would happen from time to time. And Chris, yeah, you know this full well. There's a flag put onto an account. In my case, because most of our stuff was still manual stuff, it was the late 80s, early 90s, we literally had catalogs of cards in a drawer that we would have to match up who had what, and you go back there, make sure that the person signing is actually matching with the account card, boom, there it is. Well, we would have a literal flag. The account card would actually slip into an envelope that would say power of attorney, and it was a different color than the usual stuff where if you had, let's say, an outstanding balance or you had a loan against your own account, which was a complicated thing anyway, but you had something that actually said you need to have, before you can release any information, any funds, any transactions whatsoever, have to go through this bottleneck first. So the reason why I didn't use Beth's piece about it, that she needed to prove that she had power of attorney, that's a good thing, and that's the way that it's supposed to work, no matter who it is. If you have power of attorney, you need to be able to produce that before you can have any kind of say over something or anyone or whatever the case may be.
But
Now,
I think her point was that she couldn't even get in to visit without that paper.
To be fair, it should have been on the medical. I would assume it should have been on the medical records.
Exactly.
As the attorney being the in the next of kin box or whatever as the primary contact.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Now,
but I don't know enough about how the system works over there.
Yeah, fair enough. Now, generally speaking, like I said, for something like this, that's how the process is supposed to work. You don't want somebody just willy-nilly going into a situation like that in a hospital that you can't know for certain what their relationship is, and if they're going to be making any kind of medical decisions, you need to be sure as to who is or who is not. Generally speaking, you would look to a spouse first, and then afterwards you would go looking to next of kin, which would typically be quote-unquote above. Your parents usually would be the first person out after that. And because of the established expectations, a spouse would typically be expected to be, here's that stereotype thing, someone of the opposite gender. Hence, that's why I wanted to specifically get Ashley's situation in this case. Because they are at this time not married, the expectation would still be to talk to Bobby first. That would be the expectation, although it would be legally incorrect. And what she's stating out is, once they figured that out, yes, it would have to go to her mom, which would legally be correct thing to do, but personally would not be a good thing, as she put out over there. So we feel for you, hon, and as I'm sure Joey can attest, we really don't want you to end up being in the hospital anytime soon for any reason whatsoever.
Yeah. They actually tried to keep me in mine. I refuse to stay in a VA hospital for longer than necessary.
Yeah, well, you've obviously shown us once before, at least, that death cannot stop true badassery, I guess is the best way to put this. So
or I think the term you're looking for is stubbornness.
Sure, we'll go with that. we'll go with that. But let's use that as our jumping off point for our wrap up of this whole damn thing. In Ashley's case, her legal status for something like this means that someone who is not in her ideological circle becomes somebody who is potentially her most important person, her most important voice, if it comes to the time where she cannot speak for herself. That sucks. For people who cannot be wed because of the same-sex bigotry, let's call it what it is, shall we? They end up falling under the same problem. Unless they specifically file for a power of attorney, which means they have to go through the whole legal rigmarole, but that's only to a certain specific area. Chris, let me get you on this one because you've had like you said, you had a little bit of experience with this. Where is your experience with power of attorneys, and how narrow or how broad do you think it can get? Could it become a de facto marriage contract, so to speak?
Regarding a marriage, I don't know. I'd say, although this should be readily apparent, obviously not a lawyer or an expert on this, but I do have some experience going back about 10 years or so from a banking perspective, where this kind of thing would come up, and I dealt with power of attorney situations on accounts, as well as sort of probate and executors and situations. But what I can gather from that experience is that in the UK it's a fairly flexible thing. So a power of attorney can be granted sort of to the attorney, either sort of a general one, or you can do it fairly specifically, as into what areas the attorney has control over.
Yes.
You know, and then there's different sort of legislations for doing it voluntarily, or if someone is assigned an attorney because they are for some reason incapable of sort of making decisions for themselves.
We have a very similar setup in the United States. We have what's called a special power of attorney or a limited power of attorney, which again highlights or enumerates what specific areas that person is allowed to have legal precedence in, and then we also have something. And we have general power of attorney, which is, they're legally speaking, they are effectively you. And then we have what's called a living will, which is specifically in medical cases where, again, if you don't have the ability to speak for yourself, this person is allowed to speak for you.
Well, let me correct that one just a little bit. As far as a living will, as I've understood it, it's a set of instructions that you lay out for yourself for various different situations that if X, I want Y done, and these are the things that I want done before you even deal with talking to anybody else.
Yeah, having had to deal with that recently, yeah, that's pretty much.
Which is now getting me to think, I could just have a QR code tattooed on my forearm so that it goes to a Google Doc that says, here's what I want done in a case of a situation. And
that's a rather novel idea.
Well, yeah, we can't do that, though, for the Christians, because, that whole tattoo thing.
Yeah, well,
I know. 8 years in the military, never got a tattoo. It's just, sorry, not a fan.
You got enough scarification. That's okay. I got my one. That's all I need. So, Joseph, let me throw over for your way. The whole power of attorney being the legal mess that it could be, depending as to how things go. Have you ever had to deal with that, or what kind of problems could you see for people who are just not legally recognized as being able to speak for each other?
In the I can't talk about here specifically, but I can say that I think it was Ashley came up with a good point in Q&A, where when she's not recognized, her partner isn't recognized, all legal decisions go to her mother. Have you addressed this while I was gone?
Well, that's actually in the QA right now.
Oh, okay. Have you addressed it or not?
Well, that's partly what we're on right now, as a matter of fact.
Okay, fine. But she said that any legal decisions would go to her mother, who is religious, and who would base all her decisions based on her own beliefs and not wouldn't have anything to do with her partner or her.
Yeah, and the way that we've kind of come at this one at this point is the idea of power of attorney giving you the legal right to be able to speak for someone else in that kind of situation, and kind of wondering if you've ever dealt with power of attorney, know of anybody who has, or
No.
where you might see.
Never been married, and I'm not very concerned with family matters, so no, I haven't had that experience. Sorry.
Well, you're just a fount of information right now, aren't you? That's all right.
No, I'm sorry. I'm a happy bachelor since.
No, there's
so.
nothing wrong with that. Part of the reason that I've got the cruise that I do for this show is because everybody's got a different story, and I like that because everybody's got something different. Some people have got more, some people have got less. Me, I've just got two tables and a microphone. Dallin, let me throw over your way because I'm gonna sweep back across over this way. I'm trying to remember. Wasn't there somebody that you had to deal with family, with medical stuff, or am I thinking of somebody else now?
Well, kind of, sort of. I personally have not had to deal with any kind of power of attorney issues, but my brother, who still lives in the same town as we all grew up in, and where my mom still lives, he was the executor of my father's will, and he also was granted power of attorney by my mom in the event of any kind of medical issue comes up where she can't communicate her desires. I don't know the details of what his instructions are, but I was also just looking in terms of how easy it would be to get power of eternity. Power of eternity. There we go. You can
I want some of that.
Yeah, no kidding, eh?
I think the only way that you can get that is if you go through the Church of Scientology. That's a 7 billion year contract, I believe it was.
Oh,
yeah. 5 billion years.
Yeah, well, you know, what's 2 billion between?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, once you get to 1 billion, isn't the rest of it kind of irrelevant? It's kind of like temperature. When you get past 40 below, who gives a damn, really? it's barking ass cold. Anyways,
we rarely discuss Scientology on here anymore, I realize, and
I just did a show where I left.
It's just too easy a target.
I love it.
It's like me kicking the crap out of a kindergartner. It's not that hard.
Yeah, it's fun for the first little bit, but afterwards it gets kind of boring. Anyways, I was just looking what it would be like to get, to get power of attorney or to grant power of attorney to someone here in Canada. I mean, you can get the forms online and fill them out and then turn them in. So I don't know how that works in the States, but if the mechanic is the same, the mechanism is the same, what I'd recommend to Bobby and Ashley moving forward, and any other couple like that moving forward, is get that stuff done. Like, if you're in a relationship where you figure you're in it for the long haul, get paperwork like that in place. Even if there's no foreseeable medical crap coming in the future.
You don't
Like,
know.
get it done. Lay the foundation, especially if, like, you look at Ashley's situation here. I mean, her religious mother is going to be making decisions for her, which, okay, I'm going to go paranoid and say probably the decisions being made will not be in her best interests,
Yeah.
fully. I would say get that kind of power of attorney, living will, whatever you want to call it. Get some kind of paperwork in place, especially if it's available to you.
And this is probably going to sound more complicated than it should be, and I'm probably going to get some disagreements on this. But you might even consider maybe setting up a document for multiple people to reach a decision on that. For example, when my mother passed away last year, the I'm getting echo back from somebody. Sorry, kind of derails me. My mother had a setup where, myself and all of my siblings and my stepdad, who, I pretty much just refer to as Dad, but we all had to sign the document. And so there was room that if one of us or several of us did not necessarily agree with a decision being made, it would become a majority vote kind of thing. But we were all in agreement, so there wasn't any issue that popped up with that. My mother, very smart woman the way she was, made sure that the people on that list were people who shared her basic understanding of things. So maybe that might be an avenue you might consider.
Not a bad idea right there. All right. No, I'm wondering if my I got the right microphone going. See, it's one of the wonderful parts about being me. This microphone setup gets to be a little on the weird side. Heretic Woman, let me throw over your way because got to get you finished off over here too.
Yeah, I haven't dealt with it personally, but my and I will define as common law husband. His father died just a year ago, and his mother is 80, and she's still independent, lives on her own, all of that. She actually only retired from working in real estate last month. But she's, he and his siblings, she's granted power of attorney over certain aspects. So she has one daughter who's a nurse and another daughter who's so her daughter's granddaughter is a nurse. So the ladies have control over the medical stuff, and then the fellas have control over, like, hubby deals with stuff that breaks. We're the only ones that actually live in town with her. The others live in Toronto area and Newmarket. So he has control over, things like the car and the water heater we just had to deal with, and she got a new furnace and all of that kind of crap. And the other brother deals with some of the financial stuff. We do some financial and he does some financial. So they sort of all divvied it up because it was his father that took care of most of that stuff. So for some things she's fine, and other things she's never had to deal with before. So it's not like they're completely doing it for her, but they're there to kind of make sure she's doing it correctly and that she doesn't make a mess for herself, kind of thing. So it's interesting that way. Sort of all divvied up, and I'm still always tech support.
It's funny you should mention about that. As far as tech support goes, so let me kind of wrap a little piece on this before we get ourselves on out of here. There are a lot of reasons why marriage is important. And love is only one of them. It's arguably one of the most important, but the legal aspect of it all is probably the far more cantankerous part of it all. Now, what Dallin was talking about earlier about getting religion out of it all, there's a certain amount of yes for me. There's also a very large no. Religions have used marriage the same way that they have used every other life event as a next moving on point. Because of my history for Roman Catholicism, what I've seen doesn't necessarily translate for everybody else, but get an idea. You go through, you're born, you are christened, you've got water and oil draped over your head as an infant child in a little who only knows how clean the water is bathtub in the church to signify congratulations, you're born, you're in the family now, you're part of the group. Okay, you don't have any real control over that, but some groups later in life, you're allowed to go ahead and do that for yourself. Baptists, for instance, come to mind, but me, I'm not one for putting Alka-Seltzer in my pants all the time to make a point, but we'll talk about that joke another time. You go through a couple years later, and you go through for your first Holy Communion. Of course, they kind of try to whitewash it a little bit. I mean, we get dressed up, 3-piece suit, the whole thing, man, clip-on tie, because, you're a kid. You get a clip-on tie. You can't get a real tie. It doesn't fit. Of course, they don't go through the whole business of explaining that the little girls are dressed up in mini wedding dresses because they're being married to Jesus. Although I did kind of hear that at one point, and it always stuck with me as weird and odd. But, hey, whatever. They want to put some transubstantiated meat into some little lolly character face. No, it's not creepy at all. But it's a next step in, your life. And then, of course, you go through for your first confession, which, I don't want to tell my parents. Why the hell would I want to tell God? Doesn't God already know? Why would I tell a guy that's supposed to be the intermediary for God? He's just going to hold that over my head. I didn't want to go for child counseling. Why the hell would I want to go to a priest? There's a old priest, young priest thing here, but I'm not going to go into that one either. And then, that's when you're at a certain age. And then you go another couple of years and you go to confession. And then you go to confirmation and you confirm, yes, I am actually part of the group. And I volunteer to be part of it. Read the Bible. Why would I ever need to do that? I just need to fill out these ditto pages and answer some questions. They're multiple choice, and here are the answers anyway. And thank you very much. I'm fully fledged in the church, and you know who I am now, and that's good. And spoilers, I need to pick a new name for myself that's approved. So, and then you're part of the group for all of life, theoretically, and then you can go on, you can be married, which is now, a thing that you can do if you really want to, and actually celebrate that you're moving on with somebody else. And you're going to get to repeat the process all over again from the other side of it, as no longer being the subject of, but helping the subject. So it just kind of becomes the question of, on that angle, and the joke is actually pretty funny when you think about it. A chicken is just an egg's way of creating another egg. Now I know that's kind of makes you think and stop for a couple of seconds and laugh and then do a double take and wait a minute. But that's really what the whole purpose of marriage is for religious purposes. It's another celebration, another life moment, and you get to start the whole process all over again backwards. Because maybe you're going to make a new child or bring in a new child, and they get to be part of the group by going through the water bucket brigade, and then the dress up brigade, and then the tell us all of your woes brigade, and then the whole except that you're actually part of the group brigade, and then get married brigade, and then start it all over again. It's just a perpetual cycle of back and forth in one big circle. And maybe that's really what the biggest argument becomes. Because if you can't have new infusion of capital, in this case kids, where is it good for you? That's called winning by attrition for our part. Because once same-sex marriage is, you don't want to go ahead and perform it? Fine. Why should we stick around with people that don't accept us the way that we are? We're just going to go ahead, pack up our bags, and take my spouse and my 2 adoptive kids, and we're going to go on our own way. And then we win by attrition. Same-sex marriage should just be called what it is. Marriage. It was shown before in the 60s that you can be married to somebody who has a different skin tone. And what really did it matter? It was all in the mind of people who were not getting the marriage. Who did it affect? Somebody got married to a black guy, or a black girl, or an Asian, or an Irish, or an Italian, or one of those Jews, or one of those Protestants. And who cares? If it's not your life, if it's not your love, if it's not your party, step aside and let people enjoy themselves. If they're not harming anybody else, who cares? No. That's not the right question. The question is, if they're not harming anyone else, why should you care? You find it wrong? Oh, freaking well. Pull up your big granny panties and go somewhere else. Because that kind of thinking has got no place where love is concerned. You love who you love, they love who they love. And if you don't like it, don't do it. It's as simple as that. As always, everyone, thank you very much for hanging out with us. We know that we don't have the sexiest of shows, but we still believe that all of our perspectives are worthwhile and worth listening to, of course. As always, I'm going to thank the panel and give them their opportunity to have a couple of last words before we get out of here. So, Joseph, of course, good morning to you. Enjoy your breakfast, and what parting words would you have for everyone?
Well, just thanks for having me on, and it was fun. And see you next time.
Fair enough. Christopher, thank you very much. Good morning. And what would you like to part off with?
Well, it's been fun to be here again, and look forward to being here next week. Nothing to sort of plug this week.
Well, actually, you can go ahead and, before we get past you can plug, who did you get to see at QED Con, by the way?
Oh, yes. Lots of people there. Ryan Bell was speaking and gave a great talk on his sort of transition out of religion. There was also Matt Dillahunty and Aaron Ra from the Atheist Experience, and I got to see Aaron engaging with a group of sort of street preachers, sort of evangelists who attend the sidewalk outside the venue every year, which was quite fun. And there was a lot of interesting sort of conversations around that. Let's see who else was there. As I mentioned earlier in the show, there was Marcel Dick from the Netherlands with his promoting the eating of insects, which was quite fascinating, and various other panels. For the full list of speakers, check the QED.com website, and I understand they're going to be putting up videos of some of the presentations there. But it was a great time, and really nice to see some of these people that I've watched online for some time.
Very cool. I'm hoping that we'll have some pictures and such for you later. Joey, you take care of yourself. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry about that. Heretic woman, could you mute your mic for a second? Thank you. Yeah, sorry, I was getting feedback from your end. Could you repeat that, Shujin?
Thank you. Good morning. Take care of yourself. And what would you like to part with?
I make no promises, but I relegate myself to a comment that I've made before, and I'm happy to make again. There is no logical reason why a man and another man should not have the right to an emotional and financially devastating divorce.
Fair enough. Heretic woman, here's your chance. Thank you, hon, and you have yourself a good morning.
I will. And of course, we have Beyond the Trailer Park happening on Monday night. This week, we are talking to Vicki Garrison of No Longer Quivering, and our friend over in the Q&A, Miss Renee, will be joining us as well. So that's kind of cool. And there's always My Secular Savior, which is at mysecularsavior.com. We did release a large episode in 3 parts not too long ago, so if you haven't heard all of that, please go check it out. And I think that's everything. Yeah, I had a great time last weekend, and I didn't get to see your 5-minute freestyle on Saturday night, but I did pick it up when I got home because things were a little crazy, but that's pretty dang awesome. And anybody who is listening over in Saudi, definitely my heart goes out to you, major courage people. If you're working for the Saudi government, what I'd like to say has to work for a power of 10, but yeah, it's not pretty.
I can well appreciate. I'll briefly hit that one really quickly before we get out in a moment. And how did you do with Cards Against Humanity?
We actually didn't play because they changed the style to a buy-in charity tournament, which I have no problem with, but it was going to take time away from us filming Jesus Skywalker in the cemetery, so we opted to do that instead.
Priorities.
And I know. I'm hoping I have to talk to my video guy, who is actually Dave, that was feeding me information, to see if he's managed to do anything with that, and hopefully we'll have a release soon.
Fair enough. Thanks, son. Thanks so much. And Alan, good morning to you. Thank you so much. And I didn't do it last time, so I'm going to tell you, plug all the things.
Oh, all right. Actually, yeah, I need to anyway because I owe it to Nick now.
Yes, you do.
Yeah, but yes, it is morning now. It's still above 0, so I'm happy for that.
Balls.
I was wearing shorts all day today. It was fabulous.
Yeah, I could have, but just my legs, whatever. Anyways,
So it's 7 degrees.
Right now it's
It
only
was-
+4. So.
I got 7, and it was 22 this afternoon.
Yeah, we only got up to 10 today, but we hit. Actually, we almost hit 30 earlier this week.
Well, now down in Miss Ashley's part of the world, it is over 30.
Yeah, but yeah. That's why I hate going to Oklahoma City in July, because it's just that's balls hot. That's too hot for me.
I got off the plane at midnight, and I was like, "Where can I go change? This is incredibly hot."
Yeah,
and Ashley was wearing jeans and a sweater.
It was 76 degrees sunny today, and I am just so very sad that my motorcycles are both out of commission.
Oh, God, that's gotta suck.
Dallin, good night.
Anyway, yes, I know, we're circling the drain here. Yeah. So, back in the studio tomorrow, during most of the day, heavy editing. We'll have a new chapter of my book coming out, hopefully tomorrow. Anybody that wants to know what it is, you can go to outcastnovel.yo5.ca and check it out. It's actually a book that I am doing a podcast version of. So by all means, check it out, leave me a message, and let me know what you think.
And for the record, currently, according to my machine over here, Calgary is currently at 2, positive 2. Kitchener is at 9, where I am currently. It is 8. This is by the way, that's all real numbers, so Celsius people. And just because I can go ahead and piss them off one more time, there it is, Yellowknife, -4. Imagine that. I almost feel bad. Oh crap! You know what? I can't.
I swear, if I ever talk to somebody from Yellowknife, I'm going to mention this show, and I'm going to have them call in.
I don't know that we can do that, but I do still want to kind of do that thing. And by the way, just because we want to go ahead and be nice to them all, Nick and Jake out there in Brisbane, it's cloudy, but it's 23.
Ooh, nice weather.
Yeah, you know. And by the way, those of you that don't already know about it, the ImaginaryFriendsShow.com podcast, episode 246, 248. Yeah, they talked a lot about me, which is both flattering and scary all at the same time. And for those of you that have listened to it, yeah, Nick is a big fat liar. He's a big fat freaking liar. Okay, he's just. I don't even know that.
I was on the show yesterday.
Yes. And good on you, man. I'm very happy for that. I'll hopefully catch up and hear it soon, because I didn't get that one yet.
I didn't say much.
I'm still waiting for the epic conversation between Leroy and Pastor Roy.
Yeah.
God.
Jake hung up on Nick. on Leroy, actually.
Oh my God! Okay, so for those of you that don't know about it, last episode 62, when we had Nick on, you should really watch. You should really watch and listen how Nick talks about oh God, about Leroy Harper and Jake. They have a very sordid history. The two.
Well, considering what Nick told us about the origins of Leroy Harper. Yep. And how he came to be, I can see the gears turning in Jake's mind about the whole thing. And yeah, if his visual is lining up with mine, I'd want to nope the hell out of that too.
See, yep. He's got Leroy Harper. Shujin has Mark Hamill. I used to do a good Herbert the Pervert, but I can't anymore.
I don't even know.
And you know, thankfully, this show is really helping me brush up on my Pastor Manning.
Oh, that's great.
Oh, and I do a Pee Wee Herman.
That's true. Yes.
Oh no.
Well, I have Diamond down at the Wellness Center. Ruby, because I work with Diamond down at the Wellness Center. You know, she's teaching me how to make people happy all day long.
That's demonic!
Hey, Chris. Wait a minute. Chris,
Hey,
you're
Deborah?
out now.
Sorry?
Yes.
Deborah, when are we likely to be hearing from Diamond & Co. at the trailer park again? Any ideas?
I don't know. Hopefully soon. Now, Professor Steven did do a bunch of interviews at the ReasonCon. We did try to do a live broadcast, but the Wi-Fi in the room that we had
Yeah, I
was
saw that.
no one, like not even Atheist Analysis, could manage to get anything happening. So he will be putting out that reasonably soon. We are hoping to have Cash back with us sometime maybe this month. It's just his work exploded and he had to take care of that. So, feeding the kids and all that kind of thing. But he is absolutely coming back.
Awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome.
So as the last item then, Cash, yes, we miss you, but we so would much rather know that you're doing okay for yourself and your family. Don't worry about it. As always, I say to everybody in a situation like this, we're here for you. Don't ever think it's the other way around. We're here for you. Take care of your stuff. We'll be here. Don't worry about it. If anybody would know about it, Dallin would know about it. I mean, how many years in between was your longest stretch? 2 years?
Yeah, you could say that.
And still, people were subscribed and waiting for it, and finally we're just like, new episode? Yes!
Yeah, I just start every time new content hits, people are just jumping all over it. And yeah, Cash, you might shed a couple along the way, but you've got a core of what Stan Lee calls true believers.
Yeah.
And yes, I take that completely out of context.
True non-believers.
Well, yeah. I was waiting. Okay, but you've got your core, and I can't speak for everybody on this panel, but I say that I'm part of that core. Looking forward to seeing you back, but believe me, I know when real life kicks you in the balls. Sorry, not power of 10, but whatever.
About it.
Yeah, when life gives you that nice big groin punch like that, you got to listen. This, unless this is paying the bills, this can wait.
Yep.
Once
Exactly.
this starts paying the bills, okay, that's different. But until it does, you've got your job before your hobby. You got to do that first so that you can do this. Because without the money coming from that, you can't do this.
Yep.
And if I do any more of this than that, I'm going to start sounding like Victor Borga, so I'm out.
All right. And item last. I made reference to it before. I will be doing a 36-hour radio stream marathon the weekend of May 23rd. Yes, May 23rd of this month, 2015. Yes, those of you that are watching from 3025, you missed it, okay? Screwed. Don't even worry about it. Just plug my head into the DJ console and it'll be fine. A 36-hour radio stream marathon, which is technically going to be more like 40 hours, but neither here nor there just yet. If you would like to find out a little bit more about that, please find me over on Google+, Facebook, Twitter, and ask me about it. The fundraiser is for the Ride for Roswell, for the Roswell Park Cancer Institute here in Buffalo. I have got a lot of emails out right now to invite people to come on air with me for part of that time. If you would be at all interested, please check the event in my account on G+, under the name Shujin Tribble. It's spelled the same way as you got it over here. And I've got a couple of people. I'm not going to name names at this time because I don't want to commit anyone who hasn't had the opportunity of getting in there. But if you'd like to be part of it, please let me know. If you know others that are podcasters, vlogcasters, YouTube people, semi-famous professionals, by all means, let them know what's going on. Give them the opportunity to say yes or no on their own terms. Don't force them into it. Don't guilt trip them into it. Any people who would like to be part of it would be wonderful. And thank you, as always, very much for your time. So now at this point, we have to say goodnight for everybody. So, of course, for all of you, thank you very kindly for being part of this thing and bumping us over double digits for viewers tonight. Thank you. Thank you. Really, really thank you. All of you guys out there in the various countries that are watching, we heard you. We hear you. Thank you very much. And of course, for all of you, I wish you the peace I no longer have. I wish you the strength that I've learned. I wish you well. And of course, for my lady, because it is almost 10 years. Matane Fujin, I love you and I miss you. Dream of me. Until the very next time we get together, everyone, of course, as always, good night.